Let's go. Go straight. Caution. Please mind the speed limit.
Accepting healing and then, letting go.
As a woman traveling solo, Barbara is also more mindful of the risks, and she puts safety and the rampant commercialization among the
Stay
main
left,
concerns.
and
There
then
are still
turn left.
places where it's more grounded, but it is a business model, literally a business model, and you really
Turn
need to
left.
be aware where you go. Not only as a woman, but if you believe in all the spiritual things, there is light and there is dark, and both can happen if you go to the wrong person.
My name is Ed Lilly. I'm from a town called Roanoke in Virginia, United States. I'm 71 years old.
Ed Lilly is something of an Iquitos old-timer. He started coming here back in the early 1990s as one of the first
Get
wave
ready
of
to turn
ayahuasca
left.
tourists.
It was the Wild West. At that time, there were 4 traffic lights in town. You just got a feeling of almost anything.
Turn left.
We'd have the ceremony. We'd hear the howling monkeys in the background and look up at the sky, and there's the Southern Cross. Yeah, pretty romantic.
Ed used to run a forklift company. He's now mostly retired and comes to Iquitos every year for a few months. It's a second home of sorts. And after 30 years, he's still coming to terms with the new wave of ayahuasca tourism.
A lot of people are making money on it, and it makes people happy that they've gotten their pool card punched, maybe. But I just can't get my head around the idea of going to the jungle and surfing the net until it's time to go drink ayahuasca. You might as well drink ayahuasca in recreation.
You have arrived at your
It's,
destination.
it's jungle
Your
medicine.
route
It's
guidance
taken
is
in the
now
jungle,
finished.
and it's medicine.
Again, a reminder that ayahuasca is not scientifically proven as a medicine for treating mental health issues.
My name is Carlos Suarez Alvarez. I'm a journalist and an ethnographic researcher.
Carlos Suarez Alvarez is a leading ayahuasca expert who's been reporting in the Amazon basin for over 15 years. As a journalist, he's also tackled many of the knotty social issues surrounding the ayahuasca boom, from the highly priced ayahuasca resorts, which he believes for the most part pay shamans fairly.
I cannot speak for all the retreat centers. There is some people who has put up this center, Westerners, and they have this feeling that they have to make a contribution to the locals, paying good wages by paying the shamans very well. You always hear stories of shamans that feel mistreated, and yes, it could happen, but what I see is a wonderful impact in the local community.
To the gap between the local practices and what many foreigners come looking for here.
Ayahuasca was actually a very dark and nauseous experience, nothing that they expected, because it's basically a purgative. It's not that typical that you have this brightful, colorful vision. Some people do the first time, incredible visions. Most people don't.
To the risks associated with the ceremonies and the reports arise about scrupulous customs.
When young Westerners come here thinking that they are going to be treated by a saint, they become very vulnerable. And it happens that in that situation, shamans take advantage of their patients. We cannot know how often this happens, but it does happen.
As I've come to see, everyone drawn to ayahuasca has their own personal...
It's not a thought, it's unexplainable.
That's filled with photos in traditional costume. He's often playing the guitar, which he's added to the ritual songs. His kind of innovation. Ligio's from a family of shamans. As a child, he was struck by lightning, spent 2 years in a coma, and he credits his recovery to plant medicine.
Bueno, o sea, cuando me cayó el rayo, yo perdí todo el conocimiento, no reconocía quién era mi papá, mi mamá, mis hermanos.
When I was struck by lightning, I lost all my memory. I couldn't recognize my father, my mother, or my brother.
Esa tarde, mi intención fue que quería ver.
Ligio lost a brother when he was younger too, and ayahuasca, he believes, finally freed him from his grief.
Y yo entré a esa ceremonia cuando mi madre lo hacía. Y el mensaje que mi hermano me dijo también.
My intention in the ceremony was to see my brother again, and that's what happened. He came to me and told me to be happy in life. That he...
Even as its sound references standard bearers of 90s pop, from the Cranberries to Roxette.
Turn left.
Now, after just 1 week, it's the highest charting song of her career. Stephen Thompson, NPR Music.
Donnez en ligne à carsforkids.ca. Cars avec un K. Le ramassage est facile et rapide. Et en plus d'aider un enfant, vous recevrez un crédit d'impôt. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donnez votre auto aujourd'hui.
Chez IGA, nos experts fruits et légumes mettent les bouchées doubles pour vous servir. Avec les arrivages d'ici, comme la caisse de 10 paniers d'1 litre de fraises au prix vérifié de 25 $. IGA, vive la bouffe et le bon service. De la bouche couverte dans les magasins participants. Détaillés circulaires.
Pour une mise à jour sur l'actualité qui bouge d'heure en heure.
Pour tout savoir sur ce qui se passe ici ou ailleurs.
Abonnez-vous à la balado Les actualités Cogeco Nouvelles.
Écoutez-nous partout en tout temps.
Sur votre application Cogeco Média. Hey, on devrait changer pour Belle, nous autres aussi.
Belle? You should. You been...
Join their team and...
As it happens. I'm Faith Fundal. Lots of people want a unique engagement ring. Michelle Fox took that further. She was determined to find her diamond by prospecting for it. She'll tell us how she ended up finding her rock at a state park in Arkansas.
Turn left.
There's nothing set in stone. I want certain things. I want to see a ceasefire rapidly. I don't know if it's going to be today, but I'm not going to be happy if it's not today.
A historic summit of superpowers that could reshape the war in Ukraine and reset global politics. U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin meet in Alaska. Two of the most powerful leaders on the planet shaking hands on the tarmac and sharing a limousine. A carefully choreographed spectacle with an uncertain welcome to the world tonight. I'm on the run. Also on the program.
We're going to go to the gate now and see what happens.
There's been quite a bit of stress on our end, but now we're just worried if we're going to come home.
We've got family there that we're visiting, calling just to confirm, are we going to make it, are we not, what are our plans? It's pretty hard to plan ahead right now.
Nervous flyers, Air Canada customers. Airline and its flight attendants remain locked in a labor fight. With a breakdown, hours delayed and could land in a total shutdown. They smiled and laughed Like old friends, Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin greeted each other this afternoon at a military base in Anchorage, Alaska. The two leaders are discussing the war in Ukraine and how to end it. Lisa Shing has more on the expectations and implications.
Touching down in Anchorage, Alaska, one after the other, U.S. President Donald Trump clapped as Russian President Vladimir Putin walked towards him, smiling. A remarkable scene as the leaders shook hands, walked the red carpet, and stopped for pictures before getting into Trump's presidential limo together. Earlier on Air Force One, Trump laid out his goal.
I want to see a ceasefire rapidly.
Ukraine's future hangs in the balance. Putin and Trump here to negotiate a stop to the war.
I don't know if it's going to be today, but I'm not going to be happy if it's not today. Everyone said it can't be today, but I'm just saying I want the killing to stop. I'm in this to stop the killing.
Trump, joined by Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. Though Putin, perhaps setting the tone, laid flowers at a memorial commemorating U.S.-Soviet cooperation in World War II before heading to Alaska. On Thursday, flattering the U.S. president, saying the current American administration is making energetic and sincere efforts to stop the hostilities. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is notably absent, though Trump has said he hopes the initial meeting will pave the way for a second one involving Zelensky. Ukrainian MP Kira Rudik is cautiously optimistic.
President Trump needs to get something, anything out of him. Otherwise, he will be humiliated yet again.
However, there are major hurdles. Neither Moscow nor Kiev are willing to compromise on key demands. Moscow wants territorial concessions, Kiev security guarantees. And if Russia does not stop the war, Trump sticking to his threats.
It will be very severe. I'm not doing this for my health, okay? I don't need it. I'd like to focus on our country, but I'm doing this to save a lot of lives.
The U.S. president has long wanted to end the fighting, fancying himself a deal maker, campaigning for a Nobel Peace Prize, and growing increasingly frustrated. That impatience, worrying European leaders he might offer up territorial concessions, though in recent days he has promised any land negotiations will be left to Zelensky. The Ukrainian president reminding the world Russia continues to attack his country ahead of the summit. We count on a strong U.S. position, he said. Everything will depend on it. There is also the question of what exactly Trump is planning to offer up. Natural resources in Alaska, trade deals, stronger ties with the U.S. All of this, even a meeting on U.S. soil, already seen as a win for Putin. Peter Rao is a senior fellow at think tank Hudson Institute.
But he hasn't yet met at this level of legitimacy with the major Western leader, and that's something that President Trump was willing to give in return for what he hopes is a meaningful conversation that yields some sort of ceasefire.
The other outcome, the talks don't go well, and the bloodshed continues. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Washington.
The clock is ticking toward a strike deadline that could ground all Air Canada flights and leave tens of thousands of Canadians stranded. Flight attendants will walk off the job at 1 a.m. Eastern on Saturday if the two sides can't reach an agreement. Philip Lishanek has the latest.
Andreas Mendez's flight out of Toronto's Pearson Airport has been pushed back 3 hours. It's well before the deadline Air Canada flight attendant set to walk off the job, so he's hoping he and his wife make it out for a wedding anniversary trip.
We're hoping that it's just a delay and that we make it to Tampa today, because we have plans.
Please mind the speed limit.
Fingers crossed.
He's already looked at rebooking with another airline to get back at additional expense just for peace of mind. His wife, Cicely Darcheville, says not knowing if their flight will make it out is nerve-wracking.
Just crazy, and I told my husband I'd never fly Air Canada again, but there we are.
By midday, Air Canada had cancelled more than 300 flights, impacting almost 56,000 passengers. CUPE, the union representing 10,000 Air Canada and Air Canada Rouge flight attendants, says the major issue is ground pay, the work flight attendants do before and after flights. Morgan Cowie says she's worried about her flight to Vancouver, but she understands.
We do support the idea that fair wages are important for all of the flight attendants, so If this is something that they need to do, we'll figure it out.
Todd McNamara, who is checking in for his flight at Pearson, said most people don't know workers only start getting paid once the aircraft has left the gate.
I used to be a flight attendant 25 years ago. That's what brought me to Toronto.
Go straight.
And when you work a 14-hour day and get paid for 7 hours, that's the industry standard, and I don't think it's right.
Air Canada says what the union is asking for is financially unsustainable. The company has put a counteroffer on the table. In anticipation of a work stoppage, spokesperson Peter Fitzpatrick says the airline is winding down operations.
The best solution obviously would be a negotiated settlement, but time is short, so we're beginning to act.
Why are they canceling your flights? We're at the table, we want to talk.
But for its part, CUPE has rejected the company's request for federal arbitration. Natasha Stayes with the Flight Attendants Union, she says Air Canada would rather the government intervene than bargain in good faith.
We don't want to have our rights as Canadians stripped away. We just want to speak with the employer. We want to get a collective agreement.
The strike deadline is 1 a.m. Saturday morning. Air Canada says check its website before heading to the airport. Shannon, CBC News, Toronto.
So as you heard, Air Canada has asked the federal government to step in using a controversial section of Canada's Labour Code. The Flight Attendants Union is urging the federal government not to. Marina von Stackelberg now on what that intervention looks like and why experts say it's problematic.
With the future of thousands of flights up in the air, Air Canada has asked Jobs Minister Patty Hajdu to force binding arbitration and stop the strike. CUPE National President Mark Hancock says Ottawa has no business intervening.
And the company is counting on this government, the Liberal government, Minister Hajdu, to come in and save the day. And they're going to use probably 107.
Section 107 of the Canada Labour Code allows the minister to intervene in a labour dispute to, quote, maintain or secure industrial peace. It was once an obscure piece of legislation, but recently the Liberal government has relied on 107 to send employees back to work at ports, rail yards, and at Canada Post. Unions and legal experts say that sets a dangerous precedent for labour relations in this country.
It really is a troubling development.
Barry Idlin is an expert at McGill University.
And so it basically just allows the Labour Minister this unilateral power to intervene to order workers back to work against their will. And that is extremely concerning.
Unions are now taking the federal government to court over its unprecedented use of Section 107. They argue it violates the charter right to strike and sours the bargaining process. Chris Roberts is with the Canadian Labour Congress.
We have a real concern that employers are getting the message that they can simply surface bargain, let the issues run to impasse, and at that point, the government will intervene.
Until recently, Ottawa usually needed to pass back-to-work legislation.
At least it forced the government to introduce legislation in the House of Commons, to have that legislation scrutinized by the opposition parties and the media and by the public. There would be some accountability.
Craig Monroe, a Vancouver employment lawyer that represents companies, says the government needs some way to step in.
My view is that ultimately there needs to be some capacity for the government to resolve the tension that exists between the right to strike and the impact that strike might have on the broader public, the national economic interest.
So far, the Labour Minister won't say if or when she'll stop the strike. Instead, she's calling on the union and Air Canada to work with federal mediators to get a deal done. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
One more note on this, the Air Canada labour dispute is also affecting bargaining between Canada Post and its workers. The two sides were supposed to meet today, but the union for the 55,000 employees says talks with the Crown Corporation have been pushed to Wednesday because federal mediators are tied up with Air Canada. Mail carriers rejected an offer earlier this month. Sticking points include wages and job security. Coming right up, in Atlantic Canada, some relief from the weather, but not enough to stop several raging wildfires, pushing resources to the limit. And throwing away an opportunity. Global talks to end plastic pollution collapse without a deal. Later, we'll have this story.
I'm Jayla Bernstein in Montreal with a new frontier for Canadian spaceflight. Students from here traveled hundreds of kilometers north for a historic first. How a unique part...
Firefighting resources across Atlantic Canada are being tested, along with the resolve of many residents finding out they've lost everything. Shayna Luck has the latest.
A haze of smoke hangs over Newfoundland's Bay Verte Peninsula from thousands of hectares of burning forest. Thursday night, Newfoundland and Labrador Premier John Hogan went up in a Coast Guard helicopter to see the Kingston fire for himself.
It is very thick smoke. I mean, you cannot see your hand in front of your face if you were in that smoke.
The fire has consumed at least 100 homes, along with a school that serves 60 children, says Education Minister Bernard Davis.
Unfortunately, Cabot Academy School in Western Bay has been lost. This is certainly a massive loss for the community.
Some people who live in the area, like Louise Power, are in shock.
It's hard to take in. People are devastated. Everyone.
Power thinks more resources should be sent in, maybe diverted from the Paddy's Pond fire burning near St. John's.
The way it looks, everything is pertaining around Paddy's Pond. Like we're abandoned.
With several fires still burning across Newfoundland, resources are stretched thin. Craig Cody is the director of the province's wildfire response program. He says each water bomber crew can do just 8 hours of duty shift a day, and these resources must be used carefully.
These duty hours are incredibly valuable and must be used strategically.
But temperatures have dropped, and from St. John's to Bay Roberts, Newfoundland, there was this. Rain. The answer to many prayers across the region. In Nova Scotia, too, an increase in humidity and a drop in temperatures is helping firefighting efforts in the Annapolis Valley. Dave Steeves is with the province's Department of Natural Resources.
Conditions down here today are a bit more favorable than they have been in the days previous, but we're still dealing with a relatively explosive situation regarding the amount of moisture that's left in the fuels around.
The fire there, believed to have been caused by a lightning strike, has grown since yesterday at noon, forcing the evacuation of more than 100 homes. Megan Yelland is pregnant and expecting a baby girl. She and her partner Michael Zeman were home Thursday night when search and rescue crews told them to leave quickly.
It's a little heartbreaking to go through the baby nursery and pick out all the items that we had just gotten as gifts and have to prioritize.
In New Brunswick, the largest fire is north of the city of Miramichi. Natural Resources Minister John Herron said there is rain in the forecast, but it could be a mixed blessing.
The rains that we have been receiving, unfortunately, are bringing lightning along with it, which can be very problematic.
Officials are still hoping for a rainfall that would help extinguish nearly 24 fires burning across the province and deter any more. Shayna Luck, CBC News, Halifax.
The East Coast could be in store for a different climate-related threat. Forecasters say there is a chance the region could feel the effects of Hurricane Erin late next week. For now, the storm is in the Atlantic, making its way towards Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. Erin is the first major hurricane of the Atlantic season. Plastic. We drink from it, we eat with it, it's part of our everyday lives. But the material is clogging our landfills and waterways. And the countries tasked by the UN to come up with binding rules on cutting that pollution can't agree on how to stop it. Bridget Stringer-Holden has more on the impasse.
This meeting is adjourned.
At the United Nations, another attempt in a years-long effort to curb plastic pollution failed, with countries clearly divided.
It's hard enough to get 5 people to pick where to go for dinner, let alone 180 countries that come from different economic, geographical, political situations and circumstances.
Anthony Morante is the senior plastics campaigner for nonprofit Oceana Canada. He was in Geneva for the negotiations, extended to a 3rd year after no agreement was reached to create a legally binding treaty to end plastic pollution last December.
Consensus is officially dead.
Bjorn Bieler is with the International Pollutants Elimination Network. He says the impasse has been the same at every conference: how to curb plastic pollution.
But many countries, including Canada, want measures to slow new plastic production, something oil and gas-producing countries like Saudi Arabia and the US have blocked. When a new draft treaty was presented, production wasn't in it.
It is unfortunate that some of the largest countries in the world want to stand on the path that leads us to making more plastic and to continuing the pollution crisis that we have, but we're happy to see Canada stand on the right side of this.
Most plastics are created from fossil fuels. The countries who vetoed the treaty want to focus on better design and recycling instead, despite only 9% of plastics being recycled globally, say researchers. Recycling does play a role, says Krista Seaman, Vice President of Plastics at the Chemical Industrial Association of Canada.
When you have the proper systems for collection, sorting, and recycling in place, we can actually start to have some really significant impacts on recycling rates.
But experts say recycling puts the responsibility on the public. Canada was among the majority of countries pushing for an approach involving sustainable production. What's clear from all sides is that plastic pollution is a major problem.
We've been making plastic for over 5 decades now. We have seen plastic wash up on our shores, fill our oceans, fill the stomachs of wildlife, like whales and seabirds and dolphins.
While this session has been adjourned, some are suggesting countries that want to cap new plastic production break off and do so on their own. Bridget Stringer-Holden, CBC News, Vancouver.
Flash flooding across Pakistan has killed nearly 200 people. Most of the deaths are in the country's mountainous northwest. Days of heavy rainfall caused rivers to overflow, triggering widespread landslides. Homes and villages are buried, and 5 people were killed when a rescue helicopter crashed. Crews are scrambling to find survivors under mounds of mud and debris. Forecasters say the rain may not let up for another week.
Finally, we are here.
Mark Carney has booked a business trip to Mexico. The Prime Minister will meet with President Claudia Sheinbaum September 18th. The visit is aimed at improving economic ties between the two countries and finding ways to navigate the U.S. trade war. Both nations have been subjected to tariffs by the U.S. Ottawa has been trying to diversify the country's trade portfolio. However, Sheinbaum said Mexico doesn't plan to strike a bilateral deal with Canada. Well, with Canada-U.S. relations struggling, the summer plans of many Canadians involved staycations, and the Canada Strong Pass was supposed to help, with free admission to national parks and discounts on train travel and museums. But the pass has been so popular, the parks are overwhelmed. Sophia Harris has that story.
Your kids can see the most incredible places in our country at no cost this summer.
Ottawa billed the Canada Strong Pass as a way for Canadians to more easily see their country this summer. It includes free entry to national parks and a 25% discount for camping.
So you can stay and explore the outdoors a little longer.
Nothing's available. But Lauren McVicker of Halifax says the pass makes seeing Canada more difficult. Because when he and his wife tried in June to book a July camping trip at a nearby national park, they were out of luck.
Now, I anticipated with the Canada Strong Pass there'd be a higher demand for these campsites, but I didn't anticipate that it would be such a demand that everything was sold out.
Increased demand this summer also means more traffic. Banff is home to Banff National Park. Mayor Corey DeMano says the town is on track for a record-breaking year in traffic volume.
We are so glad that people can connect with their national park system, but we do know that we cannot handle that volume of vehicles into the long term.
Prince Edward Island National Park is reporting record numbers of visitors and at times full parking lots. The park is also pleading with visitors to stay off the environmentally sensitive sand dunes.
I see an awful lot of people walking on the dunes. I see a lot of people digging in the dunes.
Mike Kelly lives near and is a frequent visitor to PEI's national park.
This year with parks being free, it is overcrowded. If you're going to invite the whole world here for free, you should be ready for it.
We do balance ecological protection with visitor enjoyment.
Julia Grusevic is with Parks Canada's Southwestern Ontario Field Unit. She says park crowds and traffic are well managed and nothing new.
We've been experiencing 8 consecutive years of higher than normal visitation.